Download this code from codegive.com, link in the description below. Basics of rate limiting and quotas in Azure OpenAI. When working with APIs, including Azure OpenAI, understanding rate limits and quotas is essential for efficient and effective usage. Rate limiting and quotas help manage the load on the service by restricting the number of requests that can be made in a specific time frame. In this tutorial, we will cover the basics of rate limits and quotas in Azure OpenAI, along with a code example to demonstrate how to handle these constraints in your application. Key concepts. 1. Rate limiting. Rate limiting controls how many requests a client can make to the API within a given time period. For example, you might be limited to 60 requests per minute. If you exceed the allowed number of requests, the API will return an error, often a 429 too many requests status code. 2. Quotas. Quotas refer to the maximum amount of resources you can consume over a longer period, such as daily or monthly limits. Quotas can be based on various factors, such as the number of tokens processed or the number of API calls made. 3. Handling rate limits and quotas. It's essential to implement error handling in your code to gracefully manage rate limits and quotas. You can implement exponential backoff strategies to retry requests after a delay when you encounter rate limit errors. Azure OpenAI rate limits and quotas. Azure OpenAI has specific rate limits and quotas that depend on the pricing tier you choose. It's essential to consult the Azure documentation for the most up-to-date information on limits and quotas. Example code, handling rate limits with Python. In this example, we will demonstrate how to make requests to the Azure OpenAI API while handling rate limits and quotas. We will use the requests library to interact with the API and handle errors appropriately. Prerequisites. Python 3.x installed on your machine. The requests library, install using pip install requests. An Azure OpenAI service instance and an API key. Code example. Python. Import requests. Import time. Define your Azure OpenAI endpoint and API key. API_key equals your _API_key. Endpoint equals https://your_name.openai.azure.com/openai/deployment_name/your_deployment_name/chat/completions?mark API-version=2023-05-15. Function to call the Azure OpenAI API. Def call_openai_API. Prompt, max_retries equals 5. Headers equals. Content type, application/JSON. Authorization, fbearer API_key. Data equals. Messages, role, user, content, prompt. Max_tokens, 100. Temperature, 0.7. For attempt in range, max_retries. Response equals requests.post, endpoint, headers equals headers, JSON equals data. If response.status_code equals 200. Return response.json, successful response. If response.status_code equals 429. Rate limit exceeded. Print, rate limit exceeded. Retrying after a delay. Time.sleep, to attempt, exponential backoff. Else. Print, error, response.status_code, response.text. Break. Return none. Example usage. If __name__ equals __main__. Prompt equals what are the benefits of using Azure OpenAI? Result equals call underscore openai underscore API, prompt. If result. Print, response from openai API. Print, result. Else. Print, failed to get a response from openai API. Explanation of the code. 1. Configuration, replace your underscore API underscore key, your underscore resource underscore name, and your underscore deployment underscore name with your Azure OpenAI credentials. 2. Function definition, the call underscore openai underscore API function constructs the request and handles rate limiting and retries. 3. Request execution, the function attempts to send a request to the Azure OpenAI API. If it receives a 429 status code, it waits for an exponentially increasing duration before retrying. 4. Error handling, the function prints error messages for any other unexpected status codes. 5. Example usage, the script sends a prompt to the API and prints the response. Conclusion. Understanding and handling rate limits and quotas is crucial when working with APIs like Azure OpenAI. By implementing error handling and retry logic, you can ensure your application behaves predictably even when encountering constraints. This tutorial provided a basic overview along with a practical code example to help you get started. Always refer to the official Azure documentation for the most accurate and detailed information regarding rate limits and quotas.